All right. It is my pleasure to call to order the Wednesday, July 1st meeting of the Freeport Planning Board. It is warm in this room and outside. So thanks for sticking it out with us tonight here. Item number one, as always, is an information exchange. Kyle, you want to start with an update on items reviewed by the PRB and the Staff Review Board?
Yeah, so last month, June 17th, Project Review Board meeting, a couple subdivisions on the agenda. The Harper's Trail subdivision, just proposed to be a 4-lot subdivision on Harper's Trail, which is a private road off Beach Hill. It was tabled at that meeting, so we're looking to continue it this coming month, but making progress there. And then we had another conceptual application for another subdivision at 32 Desert Road for 8 lots on a cul-de-sac there. It's 32 Desert's kind of diagonally across the street from the Yellow Bean Fulfillment Center.
It's right past. It's right past Cross Street.
Yeah,
Immediately past Cross Street.
Yeah. Yeah, if you would just pass the fulfillment center on the left, and it would just be like a lot or two up on the right. It's in the.
And for how many units?
It's an 8-lot single-family subdivision. So you're just into the rural residential area
Is
there.
that on Yellow Bean land?
No, it's next to.
Yeah, because they bought there used to be the house right across from the driveway of the fulfillment center.
Yeah,
And there was a house right past that they tore down or burned down or something.
I think it's one right next to that lot.
Before you
It's
get
like
to the
a
gully.
50-acre parcel. I think the guy looking to develop it, I think, grew up on the house on the lot, and
Yep.
it's got a lot of steep slopes and
Oh, yeah,
streams
it's all
winding
gully out back.
through. So a lot of it's going to be open space, I think, which is what they're looking for, and the houses will be kind of grouped up front towards the road. So yeah, should be.
Do you know if that's the only developable part of that parcel? Is that kind of maxed out?
Yeah.
Yeah, just because of the steep slopes?
Yeah, there's like a very, maybe tiny pocket, kind of well back, that would be completely inaccessible to get to, because you'd have
Unless
to
you want to
go
build a $2 million road, yeah.
But as you'll see probably over the next few months in these updates, we're getting a lot of interest in these sorts of 4 to 12 lot, single family, kind of dead end road subdivisions in the rural area that have been just popping up more and more in the past 6 months.
Carolyn's not here, so I don't remember, but when we did the comp plan and we did I guess it's in the comp plan, in the data section,
Yeah, like the inventory chapters.
Yeah.
Yep.
We talked about the level of single-family development per year. And I've been wondering what that number was. Was it 50 a decade, or was it 50 a year? It was like 50 a year?
It must be closer to
I think
50
it was
a
about
year.
50 a year.
That's what I remember.
Used to
was
be anyways.
50 a year, in which case you kind of got to expect that it's 50 a year. So,
Yeah, I'm not sure what that number is off the top of my head.
I mean, it seems like there haven't been that in the last 2 or 3, but maybe this is just.
Yeah, my first, year and a half here, we weren't getting any of those. I know there were a couple right before I started, like the Whitetail subdivision, a couple others. So, yeah, I think part of it's just a return, but
Yep.
it's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because on one hand, I want to celebrate more housing, especially if it's like 8 units on a 50-acre parcel. Feels pretty.
Yeah, there's
Like
a
that's the sweet spot.
substantial
Yeah,
amount of
But
open space.
at the same time, like we did try to set out in the comp plan that it's not that we so much want to discourage development in rural area, but we want to protect the rural character of the town and ideally have most of the development happen in sort of close to where we're sitting.
Right, but I think we figured out, I mean, I've wondered about this exact question. Is there a way to actually actively
Right.
discourage?
Yeah, there is, but it's not a pretty one.
It's
Yeah.
not a pretty, I think
Yeah.
we decided no, so then
Yep.
that's what
No,
will happen.
Yep, and I think, yeah, by
And I
and
think we're
large.
trying to fill a demand for a different type of housing, but that type of demand still exists, and
Right. And,
Yeah.
yeah, who are we to say, no, you can't have your
Right,
nice little,
right. But we're not gonna take rural land and make it less,
right,
you know,
we're not gonna upzone it.
upzone anything, right? Okay,
Yeah, but yeah, we're not gonna,
sorry, but that's worth the conversation, because this is what we have.
Yeah, that's kind of why I highlighted it, because,
Yeah.
you know, there is, right, I mean, we talked a lot about, you know, having the rural areas stay rural, but there was no specific recommendations of
How to do that.
increasing lot sizes or having, you know, specific conservation districts or anything like that.
right.
You know, I mean, it's an option if people want to explore it in the future, but yeah, I think for now, we can just, you know, keep tabs on it and see.
It's definitely something
Well-
to flag, because it may be that in the future, it is something that's worth exploring, and, I mean, I don't know, we certainly don't want to go around creating a bunch of nonconformity, but at the same time,
Since we're information sharing, could I just share 2 sentences on something slightly related to that? Which is, you may not know that a guy who lives in Freeport runs a nonprofit called Land Conservation Action Network. It's landcan.org, and it provides a roadmap for how you put land into conservation. And all the legal, the consultants, the surveying, all the vendors who can help do that. And, you know, it's something like, a guy like this should think, well, if there's a back 20 acres that I'm never gonna get to, he gets advantage for doing that.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, we always, as in our open space subdivisions, I mean, there's a few ways to manage the open space. One of them is, you know, working with the Conservation Trust
Yep.
to manage the land. So we try to.
Have they actively bought anything since Sales Field? I mean,
I think there's, I don't know about outright purchased, but there's a bunch of stuff sort of in the works.
they
At
are
any given
continuing
time.
to
Oh, yeah,
expand, so
yeah,
so
for
that's
sure.
their,
So the 32 Desert Road one, for instance,
Yes.
there's the conversation there starting.
oh, so they may already be down that
they
road.
may be
Exactly.
interested in it, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, and
That's
then
great.
update on zoning amendments by council. We haven't had any since the last time we talked, so nothing new to report there. I guess the last info exchange I would give is that we are now, we have a vacancy on the project review board. So we have one,
left?
we still have one here,
We have one
Linda
here.
Berger.
Oh, Linda left?
Yep.
Okay.
So we still have one here, and now we have one on project review board. So if anyone knows anyone who might be interested in either of those, feel free to point them to the clerk's office to sign up.
I think before we end the information exchange, we should talk about the town council conversation, because not everybody was there. Right, so you were there, I was there, you were there. Oh, and you were there too, so most people were there, so maybe it doesn't take us, I thought it was like 3 out of 6. Well, but I mean, in short, just for your benefit, it's probably worth a couple sentences. They called the meeting after, if I got it right, and you guys correct me, because I think we were all a little confused about why were we here and what we're gonna accomplish, including them. But it came out of the Aroma Joe's thing. And so we made a recommendation that they allow drive-through with smaller footprint, and they accepted that and approved it. But it raised a red flag, I think, about what's to be, and is this the beginning of the stripification of C1? And we said we've already thought a good deal about C1. It has guardrails around it. It has some housing permitted, although I don't think anybody has much. I think there's only a few opportunities for housing there, and they may not happen, and probably will develop commercially. So there weren't really any recommendations, except that we would talk about it again in the fall.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're having a kind of general, we're having Sebago Technics put together a general kind of build-out analysis of that area anyway, that's going to highlight some of the, you know, that would really like highlight on a map what land is actually available to be developed there, to give, and I mean, most likely it'll give the picture that while you look at the zoning map and you see the C1 is this pretty large area, there's not this massive abundance of developable land up and down the corridor.
Does it go to the level of detail of like, what would be theoretically possible if an existing lot were subdivided under the new smaller lot size rules? Like if somebody were to say, all right, I've got this, 200 feet of frontage or whatever, and I can carve off this.
No, we're not there yet. I'm not sure where it'll land finally, like if it's going to show like potential build-out scenarios or more like highlight, this is buildable land, like there's infrastructure, it's not restricted by natural constraints, that sort of thing.
Because it is conceivable, right, under some of the changes, like the C1 changes that we've made over the last, say, 12 months, that some of the existing lots could be subdivided and like a back parcel could be used for something different.
Yeah. I think this will show, at the very least, especially work being done early on, how difficult or feasible it would be to access some of those back parcels, because there might be a pocket of developable land out back somewhere, but it might take going through a gully or something to get there. And it's like, how realistic is it that someone do some of those things?
We could figure that out ourselves if we had a good map. We don't need somebody to tell.
What you said was, when we walked out of there, was more interesting to me, which is, he was saying you could enter into some kind of AI thing and just say, fully built out. If you took all the land that could be built out and you built it out to the maximum, what would it look like?
Yeah, Adam, didn't you volunteer like a bunch of your own hours to do that?
Yeah, I think
That
you
could be, because that.
Right after that.
It's like, and I think, Andrew always makes the point that it's not gonna happen because it hasn't happened, there hasn't been that much pressure for development there. On the other hand, dominoes can fall, and all of a sudden there is pressure. One thing can beget another, and I think everybody wants, what's the worst thing? And the worst thing in their mind is Pleasant Street in Brunswick. It's,
Well, it's also my hesitancy around any of those future build-out scenarios where it shows, well, you could have this. It's, and it's, X number of housing units, and it takes all the developable land and assumes every square
Right.
inch is going to be used for this one particular use and not a mix of uses, or
likely
that
to be
every
mostly
developer is
commercial. You
going to
have to
develop
look
it a
at it
certain
and
way.
say,
or-
that's the likely use.
Unfortunately, what's happened is, even though it's zoned commercial, not a lot of commercial has come, and the commercial that has come, we got a 9-lot subdivision down there.
Open lots, ready, developed.
That's right, and they're not coming.
Well, I think that,
Doesn't mean they won't.
yeah, that's been historically true, but hopefully some of the changes that we've made will spur some change. But
I think what you'll find down there is some small infill housing.
yeah.
That's what I think you'll find. Somebody will split a lot.
But
put a
that
couple
may
units
start
on it.
some sort of cycle of.
Once that
we'll see.
happens, then more could happen. And then you get 3 fast food restaurants, which we were told at the meeting, there is not the economics to support any of that.
Tony goes to all those meetings and tries to
Says,
recruit people to
"Don't
come to
worry."
Freeport. We don't have enough people, we don't have the population,
But what
we don't
comes-
have traffic.
But what comes to us is, would we, if we ever feared that could happen, we could regulate and say, no more than 2 within 1,000, you can't be within 1,000 feet, or we can do that if we cared and if we.
So I think there's room for a future discussion about what sorts of, whether it's buffers or like a restriction that says fast food
Has to be
joints
on
has
the
to,
side
yeah,
street or
has to
something
empty
like
into a
that.
collector street or something like that. But I think that, at least from our perspective, the sense is we don't need to
To worry
make that
about
change
this now.
right at this moment.
Seemed
So-
like, the takeaway was that it's not an urgent thing, and that staff will probably come back with a follow-up meeting or workshop or some information in the coming months, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. Item number 2 is, what's that?
No minutes from.
Right. Yes, no minutes. Item number 2 is a public hearing, for a zoning text amendment to update the net residential acreage definition. So this is Chapter 21, obviously, Section 104, definitions to remove parking areas that are within multifamily developments from the list of features subtracted out of the total parcel acreage when calculating net residential acreage. So as we touched on last time when we sort of talked about this at a high level, this is something that came up as, correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle, but I think out of at least a theoretical discussion about multifamily housing development in the C1, and in thinking through the restrictions on a particular parcel, somebody pointed out that.
And C3.
And C3, yep. Pointed out that subtracting the parking areas from developable land is sort of a artificial restriction on density. And I think we as a board felt like we just did all this work to allow for higher density in the C1, and if we wanted to restrict, or if a future board wanted to restrict density in the C1 for some other reason or put additional restraints on it, this would not be the cleanest way to do it. And there are a lot of other protections in place that sort of serve a similar purpose, like, you know, making sure that stormwater passes engineering and passes review, and the sorts of things that protect the environment and are meant to you know, promote responsible development. They're already there, so removing or mandating that parking areas be removed from buildable areas just doesn't make a lot of sense at this point. So it's not something that we didn't really pick up on when we changed some of the other zoning in the commercial districts. So this will be a public hearing. Judging by the number of people in the audience, that is not a hot button issue. So I think hopefully it's move through.
I think this is relatively specific to the Route 1 corridor. You know, it's possible, like a multifamily development is basically you have more than 3 units on a single parcel. So like this A1, this line, right, could apply to condo type subdivisions where it's a single lot and it's built out with a ton of single family homes or duplexes, even in the rural areas. But in those situations, you're not really likely to see parking lots. You know, it's usually, you know, something similar to like how the Harrisicke Ridge subdivision was built out, that 80 unit, 40 duplex subdivision. It was all on one lot. It was done as a condo. There were these internal roads that weren't used for frontage, but they pretty much functioned as a right-of-way would.
They would count as a deduction.
Yeah. But there are no, you know, as part of that subdivision, there were no parking lots. You know, where you see parking lots in subdivisions is the few instances of, you know, kind of split up multifamily buildings all on one parcel, you know, more in town. Kind of like, you know, a setup like the visual example here, where you have kind of a centralized parking area and then a few buildings around it, you know, maybe like 2, 3, 4 buildings. And this is a scenario that, you know, we sort of promoted with, you know, not necessarily laid out specifically like this, but this general idea in the recent C1 zoning, where, you know, you break up your multifamily housing. Instead of 50 units in one single apartment building, you break it up into a few buildings. You know, it could be commercial on the first floor with 3 floors of housing above it, you know, whatever. And in these cases, like this exact scenario, you know, if you're deducting out the parking from the net residential acreage, when you're calculating density, it's a huge hit on density allowances. But, you know, I mean, a situation like this where you just have some minor natural constraints off to a side somewhere, you know, you're missing out on a lot of buildable land, potentially.
So this would apply to both existing and future subdivisions?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I guess if an existing subdivision was calculated and had deducted their parking originally and they wanted to come back for an amendment because they had.
Where they couldn't before.
Yeah, I mean, if they had some open land, potentially, yeah.
Or if they wanted to, I don't know, seems unlikely, but structure their parking or do something like that, it could, you know, it could open up new.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is that parking needs and wants, requirements could change over time. Like in an internal road being used for access is probably always going to be needed for access to, get to wherever these units are on a parcel. The parking, could be changed. As a corridor develops over time, maybe it transitions from more vehicle dominant to less, with, additions to bus service or any number of things. Or maybe, one development is done with a few larger units and another development uses, a higher number of smaller square footage units and they just don't need the same amount of parking. There's all sorts of factors that can change what the amount of parking on a lot is outside of our minimum parking requirement. So it feels like having a base minimum parking requirement and deducting these areas out of the NRA calculation, and also regulating like building size and height and all of those things, it's kind of like double dipping there.
It also feels like it just creates sort of like a circular reference, right?
Yeah.
Which is sort of
Correct.
going forward, a hard thing to enforce. Like what if somebody changes their parking and then that affects the net resident, like these other things are at least more likely to be fixed over time.
Yeah, so I think the, question, to ask when you're just considering, is it, okay, so you have an almost 2-acre parcel, let's say in the C1 or C3, somewhere like that. Is there any reason, that we wouldn't be okay with, the image on the right instead of the image on the left when we just said, we're okay with, 80% lot coverage and we're okay with 45-foot buildings.
And that's nowhere near the lot coverage, and it's nowhere near the building size.
Yeah, I mean, even this building, this example on the right would still probably leave room for additional development. Let's say someone wanted 3 small buildings of housing, and then they could do a,
Something
a
over there.
commercial building, on the other side up front.
Well, at some point, you still gotta provide more parking,
Yep.
because you got more units.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's the circular reference, and so,
At some point, one balances the other out, doesn't it? So it cancels the other.
Yeah, I think this is the right way to go.
Is this gonna, are we only for C1, C3?
No. This would
I
be,
was gonna say, because that one you just talked about, are those single-family up there on the desert road?
right.
Yeah, so it's anywhere a
Those are
subdivision, because it's
single-family,
it's a definition in the section 104 definition, so it applies to anywhere that the net residential calculation applies, but that only applies within subdivision review, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah, that project on Northern Route 1, it wouldn't really have an effect on that one because they didn't have a kind of centralized parking lot,
Yeah.
right? Their parking is just,
For each unit?
yeah.
But it would affect all, Mount Drive, there's.
that's
all
another
kinds
reason to
where
do
could-
it, right? What's a parking, it's like,
Well,
when does
so-
it become
Right,
stop being
what
a
if it's
driveway and
gravel?
start being a
Right,
parking
what if
area?
it's just a
Yeah,
gravel,
so, all right.
area?
I think we've beaten this
Can I
horse.
ask a different question, slightly different question? So I don't think we have any doubt that this is a strange way to do it. My only question is, well, I guess we just, never mind.
Are you gonna
I
go
worked
down
it
that
out in my own head.
gross residential
Well,
acreage path
that's
there?
what I was sort of wondering, you can always keep it that way and then just change your number, go down to 1,000 feet instead of 1,750, or, there's other ways to regulate it. And
Right. Or-
so I wondered, is this, just, what's the comparison to other towns? Does anybody else do it? We should just know that.
Well, not everyone uses a net residential acreage calculation.
When people are trying to regulate density, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So take a single apartment building, we wouldn't even go through this exercise because it's not triggering subdivision. To calculate the density for a single apartment building, you would just take the total land area and divide it by the land per dwelling in that district. So,
But it feels to me like
Regardless
this is
of
the
park-
right,
right.
like if we wanted
Okay.
to restrict density, or if we
We can
wanted to
always change
say.
the number.
Yeah, and there are more targeted ways to do it too. Like this applies
Simpler.
globally across, or not, it
Right.
applies townwide, I should say. Any area where a subdivision is allowed, this definition could come, or would, I guess, come into effect. Whereas if we said, in that district over there, we really want to be protecting, we don't want quite the density. So maybe a more targeted way to do that would be to introduce a lot coverage restriction, or say like, actually 85% is too high, let's go down to 70% lot coverage. And that way we have a more targeted approach that applies to that district that we're trying to protect. And we're not messing around with this sort of like town-wide definition. So I think this is really a good change.
How hard is it to
Yeah.
do what you just said, though? Is that a?
It's just a simple,
Well, but it's downzoning. Is that a taking? Does that create problems?
It could,
to
theoretically,
later
yeah.
try to do that?
There'd be a whole lot of things that we could explore in the future, right? You
I
could.
don't think any of this is an issue, so, I just think we should.
Like,
know
you
what
could do
we're
it in
doing.
your growth areas, you could use a gross residential acreage formula instead of net residential acreage, and then just leave net residential acreage for the more rural areas. So, you're only deducting, kind of like the sensitive natural areas in the rural areas where, you aren't really promoting the level of density that you're promoting downtown. We could just get rid of open spaces, subdivisions altogether.
We're talking about how to
Get
make it go
rid of-
up, and I'm thinking about, is there any situation where you might need it to go down? Because this is raising it, that's what we have to be careful
Yep.
about, so.
Can I ask one really quick question? I think I know the answer to this, but the only, I think this all makes sense. The one place I could see it kind of creating a perverse incentive is if it would be possible to build over a restricted area, like a natural area with a parking lot, but you can't, right? That's a non-issue, because you can't build over it with a parking lot as well as a building.
That's
Yeah.
already subtracted in
That's right, yeah, okay. That's, yeah.
Yeah, those areas in B are considered unbuildable
Including for a parking
areas.
lot, yeah.
And they come off the size of, any density is figured, not counting that.
Okay.
There would be other reasons aside from this that would make all of those things either very difficult or very expensive to build in, either through permitting through a state department or just the feasibility of like building on a steep slope or anything like that, so.
all right. Any other questions on this before we open a public hearing? Do we have anyone on Zoom? Before I forget to ask that question.
No.
Do I hear a motion to open the public hearing?
I shall move.
Second from somewhere down there. All in favor? All right, the public hearing is now open.
Still not.
Yeah.
No,
I'll just
I
use
move to
this-
close the public hearing.
Since this is, I think, the first one for a couple of our new members, I mean, generally in the staff report, because really the decision the board is making is whether the proposed amendment is consistent with our comp plan, and that's the recommendation that the board would make to town council. So I usually highlight a couple of points taken from the comp plan that speak to kind of the intent behind the amendment. The board is free to add others, or if, they ever disagreed with a staff recommendation, you could pull something from the comp plan and say, well, no, I don't, think this is consistent.
Yeah, that's a
but,
good point,
yeah.
though, to like zoom out for a second. Everything we do here, right, is to hopefully align Freeport's land use policy with our comprehensive plan, which was developed with lots of community feedback and yada, yada. It's relatively new. So any of these goes through a process here where we hopefully find it, or don't, but in this case, find it, compatible with the comprehensive plan. It's advancing the goals of the comprehensive plan in ways that Kyle has alluded to, and there's probably lots of others as well. So we make a motion to recommend to the town council that they adopt this ordinance because it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And that's what we said we go through a public hearing process.
So we
Once the-
can't really
once-
do anything here that is not consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Yep.
We spent years just completed it, really, a year ago.
So we, once we have had a public hearing and listened to the droves of people that come out to weigh in on this stuff, we recommend to the council that they adopt, typically, stuff that we've talked about, and then it's up to the council whether or not they adopt it. Usually they listen to us at least a little bit, so. And that's basically the process, but it is good, it's always a good reminder, I think, to remember that the comprehensive plan is kind of the guiding document, and we're finding stuff consistent and compatible with
However, I think
our comp plan.
Carolyn's in the room, so, but Kyle does a much better job of like teeing us up all the way home.
Yeah,
does.
Caroline wanted to let, she was like
You
the,
made us work for it, and
Yeah.
he just hands it to us on a platter. So, because you really did, it's, let me find it.
But because you agree with what he's saying,
it's a different, right.
Well, yeah, we've been
yes.
through it before, here it is.
Yeah, we'd be fighting if you disagreed with a very specific recommendation.
Right. It's a different educational philosophy, I think, right, Caroline? You're sort of leading the horse to water, but not, showing the horse like how to drink the water
both
necessarily.
great ways.
Yeah, right. So,
But yeah, so in this case,
This comes before this. Well, in this case, I'm sorry.
no, I was just going to say, I mean, this, sometimes, right, we take for granted because we use a lot of the same talking points out of the comp plan over time, and we just get accustomed to them. But this change doesn't come from nowhere. I mean, we thought about this, it came up in discussion, and then you look at the comp plan, it says, we'll encourage a range of housing types, including multifamily and townhomes, alongside, commercial spaces. Well, it's exactly what we were just talking about in the C1 and C3. And, if someone comes in and they're interested in a lot, which, people come in all the time asking, well, what can I do on a lot? And say, well, you can have 28 units max versus being able to say you can do 40 plus units max. I mean, it opens up a different conversation for people in terms of thinking a project might be feasible or not. So it all does tie together with what we've been talking about.
I'm assuming nobody has raised their virtual hand as we've been talking about this. Public hearing is still open. Do I hear a motion to close it?
So moved.
And a second? All in favor of closing the public hearing? Public hearing is now closed. Any final questions or thoughts, or when someone's ready, that person can feel free to make a motion to recommend this change to the town council. And so that, as Mitch alluded to, Kyle has pretty well teed us up for somebody to make that motion and find, again, any motion to recommend needs to include within the motion how the changes are consistent. The proposed changes are consistent with the comprehensive plan. So that's part of making the record, keeping a clean public record of this is the change, this is how it's compatible. We've done the public hearing, and now we're ready to move it along.
Can we take
So-
a stab at it?
Sure.
All right. Be it ordered, the Freeport Planning Board recommended the town council that the zoning text amendment to amend section 104, Freeport zoning ordinance regarding a revision to the definition of net residential acreage is consistent with the Town of Freeport Comprehensive Plan. And the backup information would be the fact that Freeport will update ordinance standards to allow for expanded housing choices, including workforce, affordable, and age-friendly housing that allows residents to live and work within Freeport and age in place. From the comprehensive plan to back this up.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Wayne, all in favor of making this recommendation? Looks unanimous from here. All right. Thanks, Kyle, for staff report, and I like the graphic especially. Helps to underscore how this change might really affect.
Just one quick question about that. If there are existing properties that would have new building opportunities, is it likely they would be noticed about this?
I mean, we normally wouldn't retroactively, reach out to people. I mean, that's not part of any, baked-in policy or anything in the ordinance.
More of a
but-
general question, though, how would
But, yeah, I
somebody
mean,
find
we
out
could
about it?
talk with Brett, I feel like that
Yeah,
would be up his.
Brett and Mary at FEDC and Tawny should all be aware of this,
Yeah, so I would suggest we reach out to those
at
people.
least to those.
Yeah, I think the one up here on Varney Road would be an example of a place that could benefit from this sort of.
Yeah, I mean, that project, for instance, right? I mean, Varney Heights came in before we did the C1, C3 changes, before single multifamily buildings met that exemption where they didn't have to go through subdivision. I mean, everything about that project review would be different if it, came in.
So if they were to come back and request a revision for a single building, so it wouldn't count as a single building though, because it would be an amendment to their existing subdivision plan, is that
Now,
right?
It's weird because there's already a subdivision approval there.
That's what I mean. So it's
yeah,
kind of like,
it's a little
it's a
strange.
funky,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Anyway, that's a rabbit hole we do not need to go down right now. Somebody will cross that bridge someday if they
Did they
need to.
use up all their acreage down there with that building? 'Cause they got some steep slopes in there and stuff.
Yeah, and a portion of the land wasn't even in the C3. A portion was still in the rural area. I think like 6 acres of it maybe were,
Yeah.
I assume they used all of,
Is that what they get, 9 acres with that deal?
yeah, I think it was 9 total, and then 6 was in the C3 maybe, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. That's all right. Item number 3 is a discussion, a continued discussion, the latest of many discussions, about our pending update to the design review ordinance, including reviewing recent feedback provided by the project review board. So I think everybody was here, right? Last time we had a workshop last month with the project review board, and after the workshop, many of them sent some very helpful and thoughtful feedback to us, and Kyle has incorporated that feedback in the latest draft. I did not respond on time to incorporate my feedback on those 2 little text amendments, but the PRB did a much better job than I did, and many of them at least, were very thoughtful. So thank you to any of the PRB who watches this in the future.
Yeah, so in the staff report, you'll see the first section, there were a few things that I just added in. So those were the things highlighted in yellow throughout. Those are things we either discussed at the meeting or the PRB had sent afterwards that seemed relatively simple. If people have comments or feedback on any of the things that I just added in already, we can go through that. Happy to make any changes there where it's necessary. So I'd say we should do that first, and then after that, we can dive into the next section of bullet points, which was feedback that the board had, that I think had there could be different ways of handling the comments, so I kind of left it open for this discussion, and we can kind of walk through those.
I think we can do
5,
it.
7 things one by one.
Yep. I mean, some of them sort of relate to each other, like what happens in 6.3.
Yeah, the whole.
It may be easy to do it together.
Well, so let's just go through the second set of points.
Can I ask you a question about the definitions?
Yep.
Because one thing that confused me is that the definition of demolition is demolishing any portion of an existing building. And then you have partial demolition, and it raises a 50% or more figure. So partial is 50% or more, but demolition itself is any part of the building. Isn't that inconsistent?
Yeah, we can look at that.
Yeah, a really strict interpretation of that would be you demolished the left leg of your window casing, and you didn't give us 3 months' notice. Right? That would be problematic.
Good catch.
That's a good call.
Oh, so why don't we decide, should we decide right now how to fix that?
That may be a little bit of a,
I mean, because we should try to get this thing done.
Can you just remove the partial definition category?
I think it's
demolition.
worth, because I think we want to avoid requiring notice for any sort of demolition. So it's probably worth
Well,
putting,
does that only apply to, it would only apply to the, whatever, class 1?
contributing buildings.
Contributing building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's a lot
But
of,
still, any portion.
Yeah, I would be in big trouble.
Yeah, so do you want the 50, do you want, right, anything under 50% to not have to go through?
50% is a lot. I mean,
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, sorry.
yeah, you rip down half your house.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I mean, if you fix a window, so how do you?
But it's also,
decide
it gets, the reason it's a sticky, it's like, how do you measure, right? Is
Yeah,
it
how
by
do you measure?
volume, and who's calculating the volume?
You can't.
So maybe what you want to do is, under demolition, the permanent removal, dismantling, or destruction of all or any portion of existing building or structure unless that proportion is under whatever number you want to pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can combine the two numbers and then,
Well,
The
what
two
if it,
definitions, I mean.
what if it just had to do with? Oh, wait a minute.
Is this supposed to apply to, like, historic?
Yeah, it basically applies to historic, and so maybe it's right the way it is.
but if you were
Why is
doing
anybody
like,
taking down anything?
if you were doing like an alteration or something, I don't think that would necessarily count as a,
Well, but that's not a permanent removal, dismantling, or destruction.
Well, but it is if you count, if it's like, you're taking down something that is deemed to have historic value and replacing it with something that meets the new design standards, even though it might be different than what was there originally. This is where we kind of like,
Well, that's why it's here.
right. But I think I think the question is like,
The question is if you're trying to
Where's the
fix
reasonable
something, Where's
standard?
the reasonable
Yeah.
material, a material that has a material effect on the, oh, good.
That sounded
Here to
positive.
save the day.
Well, a little bit below that, you have the terms of reconstruction and restoration. So if you're restoring or constructing, would it then not be a demolition? You could incorporate those terms into the
Unless it is a
definition.
reconstruction or restoration.
Yes.
I mean, what if you just said?
that kind of gives people an out a little bit from the notice period. So you're like, you're able to take down a portion if under your review, because all of this is going to the PRB, presumably. Like if this is a big enough project that it's going to go to the PRB, right? The stuff that we're talking about here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd send you back to what are you trying to achieve?
basically anything to contributing buildings goes to PRD.
Right, so it's sort of like saying, all right, if you are imagining this project, this alteration to your house, you don't have to go through the notice period if whatever you're planning qualifies as a reconstruction or restoration that passes muster with the PRB, right? Is
Even
kinda-
that goes to the PRB, doesn't
Well, that's
it?
what I'm saying, it's like, but you don't have to do
I
the
think if you
notice, you
tuck-
don't have to wait 3 months to start your,
Oh, right, it's just the notice provision.
yeah, that's basically all we're.
I mean, it's quite a bit more lenient than what you have now. For example, once there was this house on North Main Street that wanted to demo a porch. It was during COVID. That was really in rough shape, but the applicant was actually restoring it to what it had historically looked like. So the board looked at it as a restoration because it was well beyond its life, and otherwise to take off that porch, the individual would have had to wait a full 4 months. So this is more lenient than what you have today.
Yeah, I mean, so we could combine the demolition and partial demolition into one definition, and then, leave it as.
Unless it's a reconstruction or
Right, and
A
have.
restoration or
yeah,
reconstruction.
reconstructions and those sorts of things not apply to being considered under demo.
That's good with me.
does that solve it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
that's a
good.
better way to do it. Put it
Moving
in
right
under
along.
demolition.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
all under demo, yeah.
So there'll be no primary, no partial at all.
So what's the number then? Is it like 30%, 50%? Where it counts, like how much damage can you do before you trigger this demolition standard? If you're just out there with swinging with a sledgehammer and you have no intention of replacing it, how much of your contributing building can you just knock over before
None.
that you get in trouble with the
Presumably
town?
none.
Yeah, because under demolition, it was any part at all, so.
And really,
So we may have to add another line in there that says, that it just speaks to like, an alteration that's exempt from review doesn't count as demolition, right? Because it's not really, yeah, okay, I guess that would be covered by reconstruction. Like if you're,
if you're fixing it, that's
yeah,
different.
or if you're replacing a window.
Yeah, that's
within-
right.
yeah, that counts as reconstructed, okay, all right.
Incidentally, what's the purpose of I understand the purpose of the notice provision if you're gonna tear it down because somebody might wanna buy it out from you. But is that the same purpose of the notice provision here, that you wanna do something to your house and you're
Yeah,
supposed to
it's
give a
like
notice for somebody
theoretically,
to negotiate with you?
In the case of that porch, I mean, it's kind of a ridiculous example. I think
Yeah,
that was
but-
my neighbor's house. Is that right, Caroline? So I look at that porch. Yeah, okay, fair enough. But I do remember a similar situation, let's say, in my neighborhood, where a pretty far gone
Notice.
porch, I guess the argument would be somebody could, like, I could have said, hey, I actually really like the timbers in that porch. I want to stick those on my house. I'll buy them from you, and it's going to take 2 months to negotiate this deal, and therefore we're like saving some piece of Freeport history by going through
Okay.
that process.
Okay.
Does that seem?
Sure.
Yeah.
You're the
I mean,
affected one
it's
here,
not,
so
yeah,
you would
no,
know.
it's not like, yeah, I think, I'm generally in favor of anything that makes this process easier. So I think this streamlines it, and.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the waiting period has no real teeth. Like, there's no denial.
Right, it just gives somebody the opportunity to
Yeah.
talk you out of it or something.
Okay, good.
Does that give you enough to
Well-
rework that, Kyle?
Yeah, we'll come up with something there. All right, so one of the comments from the board, the first bullet point in the kind of second section of things still needing to be addressed is that some of the paragraphs were running on and difficult to read, and I definitely got that in the applicability section, leading off, this whole section 4.1 on page 4 was just one sentence. So I altered that. I didn't make any changes to 1.1, the purpose section. Caroline and I had already cut back on that section pretty substantially compared to what's in the current ordinance. The board has been over the purpose section before, so I mean, we can make further alterations to it, but, I didn't want to.
I believe you can trim the third and the fourth and fifth line. Just, we don't have to spend time here, and I can show you later a proposed edit, but it just is sort of full of redundancy.
Fourth and fifth line.
So, town boards to protect buildings that contribute to the district's historic significance while also ensuring that new buildings, and see what it says, are designed in a thoughtful manner to respect Freeport's past and be sensitive to the remaining, I mean, you don't need most of this. Ensure that new buildings are designed in a thoughtful manner and respect Freeport's buildings from the 19th century through 1950, which earned Freeport's listing in the National Register. I mean, there's just a lot of, there's a lot of extra words in there that will make it cleaner. Anyway, that's my recommendation, is that it can be cut without changing it at all.
Are people generally on board with that? Okay.
I'm-
I mean, it doesn't
I'm-
substantially
yeah.
change any of the standards, so at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
No, it's just to, because
Yeah,
it's, so it isn't gobbledygook.
Yeah, Mitch, if you want to just email me to.
I'll email you a proposal.
All right.
Could we just take a second to clarify kind of how we're going to move through this? So we want to kind of go like as the staff report goes? Is that going to be the easiest way to go, do you think, like
You
section?
want to go through twice? That's the question.
Yeah, do we go through once or do we go through twice? Just kind of go in order?
I think we,
I was going to start with just the second set of comments.
Okay, so-
I guess if people have comments on any of the first set of
Same.
points, then we can just add them in as we go.
Okay,
If
that sounds
that
good.
works.
Yep, that's
you're
fine.
going to start with the second set.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you.
Because the first set is kind of more of like a catalog of.
It's basically
yeah.
done except for your,
Yeah.
well, except for your section 6.3C. That is not done. That's the only thing on the first page of your notes that is not done, about plastics and concrete. I
But
think
we'll get to.
we'll get to that.
Yeah.
section.
Yeah, so I put an edit in there. It's just that was one of the few where I wasn't sure if people.
I'm pretty sure we don't have it right. I think we
Yeah,
better-
so
we
we're
better
gonna
make
get to
sure
that
anyway.
section anyway, so we can, we
Okay.
can get through All right, so we've done the first point there and the second set of bullet points, so, all right, moving on to the second one, which is 6.3. So let's bring
Oh,
that
and
up.
here we are.
So we are on page 11.
So we make to this, and there's, I'm sure there's nothing to discuss before that. Yep.
So one of the comments from the board was around the photo, the first photo not accurately representing
This is a great photo.
6.3A. So I think this one does it a little better. We have the change in language that we discussed at the workshop to 6.3A, where it says changes in material must align with changes in form, facade, or architecture. So then, my one question here is there a standard here that we want to show an image of specifically? If so, I can add something specific here on the right. And then the other thing to talk about is 6.3C. Previously, the ordinance had basically just not allowed concrete or plastic. And there was this question brought up, I think at the workshop and in the PRB comments around, well, we're allowing vinyl, we allow some plastic trim, so how do we reconcile
Yeah,
with that?
what is plastic panels? I was trying to figure out what
Not
it is.
sure what-
AZEK? I mean, AZEK is allowed, right?
It's a little bit of a sticky one, because like an unfinished plastic pan, I mean, you can get a 4x8 sheet of AZAC, which is basically meant to look like you took like a big piece, you glue a bunch of pieces of wood together and make it up perfectly smooth, and then, like a panel, like you might see in a panel under a bay window or a storefront window, or like these on the front of this picture that's staring us in the face.
It could look just like that.
I mean, honestly, those probably are, maybe not
They even
AZAC, but they're
could
probably
be.
something similar to
They could
AZAC.
be plastic.
And they could
right
be
now.
technically unfinished in the sense that it's like the factory finish of AZAC, because you can paint AZAC or other, I shouldn't use the brand name, I guess. You could paint those cellular PVC
Cellular
products, but
PVC.
you don't have to. They could, and they just kind of stay white-ish. So that one makes me a little nervous, but at the same time, I think, there is something that may be worth protecting. Like, we don't,
Well,
So we can delete it if there's a different term, that there's a type of plastic that you don't want, then
did the
that can work.
PRB have
Plastic.
an opinion about this? Questions were raised. It states plastic is not a permitted material, however, the standard just above allows. I'm looking for their actual question. This is
So,
capturing their
I
language.
think it was just the inconsistency between 6.3B and 6.3C. So originally, when the consultant did it, I don't think vinyl was one of the materials allowed. And then as we talked through it, staff and the board, said, well, we have allowed vinyl any number of times in the design review district, so let's add that as an allowed material. But then it created this contradiction between B and C, where C was saying plastic is not allowed. So, I left room in here that a certain type of plastic, if it was undesirable, we could still say it's not permitted, but allow plastic in general in certain cases.
can you think of a type of plastic that would be undesirable?
That's the thing. In my mind, vinyl is the worst looking.
Right.
And any new common PVC product
Be better than
is
vinyl siding.
designed to resemble traditional building, but it actually looks better because it doesn't rot.
Yeah.
So I think vinyl would be the least.
And that's what the single sheet
Well, but
is
this
trying to at
brings, I mean,
least-
this
yeah.
gets worse in my mind, because then you wonder what B and C are even there for. Well, I mean, let's add in the concrete. I mean, I guess the town has decided no, that is not okay.
Well, I think it's like, it's a relatively narrow, we're saying no polished aluminum buildings, or like no Corten steel buildings. Or we're discouraging that at the very
Even that,
least.
I wonder,
right?
is this only applied to contributing? No, this is all new,
This is in 6, so it's non-contributing.
non-contributing anything.
So it's trying, yeah.
The other thing too is, you know, there's other products now that for, like, I'm suggesting or thinking about the word plastic isn't really the word that we should be using. Feels like, because like Boral, right? It's a composite fly ash material that, in my mind, is better, performs better than a plastic PVC product, but it's more of a, it's a composite, is what we
Right.
call it.
But we're not specifically, so that would fall under,
Because then there's a difference in my mind between vinyl and composite.
right? So would that, like, if somebody said, I want to use, which it's probably happened, I bet there's some downtown somewhere, it's a pretty common product. So if somebody said, hey, I want to use fly ash trim on my house, would that be allowed? I think it probably would, right? Because it is a contemporary material simulating clapboards, shiplap, flat wood. It's a contemporary material simulating a flat wood board. I mean, that's definitely covers
Might
it.
it be better just to say what's being prohibited?
Yeah, I think that's
That's
the
what
struggle, is like, we're not really prohibiting
That's
much.
what
I mean, we could
C
say
is.
like concrete
And it
block.
basically says no concrete, I mean, concrete block, that's pretty gruesome, but concrete, precast concrete is not necessarily gruesome. In my mind, I mean, I don't know.
How specific can you get? Because in my mind, like, the ugly plastic is like vinyl corner boards or
Right.
vinyl fascia trim
The-
that's
the-
wrapped around, you know, subfascia.
Totally.
But plastic or composite corner boards look fine. They resemble
That could
wood.
be a specific, we could say, if you're gonna use single sheet vinyl, like no J channel, it would probably create a bunch of nonconformity. But you could say you can't use,
It can say whatever
I know,
you
I
want.
know.
What don't
I
we
think
want?
we were
That's-
building off of
I mean,
what
there's other
the,
people's opinion about what shouldn't be downtown, and what does the plant,
Well,
PRB think?
what does it actually save you to have those two, I mean, you've probably kicked this around a lot, I know you've gone over this many times, but because it does lay out this, you know, fairly extensive process for anybody who's in this, I mean, if you take that process on a case-by-case basis, if you provide, you know, very brief general guidance, should conform to the overall character of the district, and then just take it on a case-by-case basis. I don't know, I mean, there's probably, there is some risk to that. This is funny, because in federal practice, this goes in a guidance document, and so it's not binding. It's tricky here because it's an ordinance, so it becomes binding, so then you use sort of soft language. But, well, I mean, what happens if you pull it out completely and just use very general terms?
Well, then,
and put it
I
out?
what
mean-
we currently have.
That's what
Yeah,
you.
for what
and-
it's worth, the goal here was to make it more specific, because right now, most of it says, you know, if it's compatible, which lets everything be open to a case
And the
by
public is
case.
frustrated by that? Is that they asked for more specificity because they're getting a no, and that's frustrating?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's mostly, it's like, it's developers and property owners who want to make changes and don't know if they're going to spend, they can't tell ahead of the process if they're going to, that's maybe spend a bunch of money and time trying to develop a permit or permit documents that aren't going to make it through because they don't have enough.
The current design review standard around materials is very much in this light, right? A building's character varies with its materials and their textures. In Freeport, many different materials are used depending on the architectural style of the building. A building's materials contribute to its architectural significance and should be visually compatible with nearby A and B buildings. Finishes of siding, roofing, windows, and other architectural features should be visually compatible with nearby A and B buildings.
Yeah, that
Is-
sounds right to me, but I'm not a professional in this space, so I don't know.
Okay, here's one idea. So single sheet vinyl, I like that. I feel like that's a good, right? We're saying we don't want stacked joints in your clapboards, right? We want a single sheet where you can see it sort of looks more like a traditional clapboard. The thing that I think, what you mentioned, Adam, is the thing that looks, of all the things we're talking about, the thing that looks the worst is like a pre-molded vinyl cornerboard wrap or something like that. The thing that all of those have in common is they're very thin gauge, right? So if we say, if you're gonna use vinyl or plastic for trim products, it has to be thicker than a half an inch. Does that seem like it might achieve our, so you're saying like we can't, you know, you can't get like the pre-molded cornerboard because that's gonna be a eighth, maybe not even. Whereas you can use a cellular PVC like AZAC because that's gonna be at least a half an inch, more commonly 3/4. Does that maybe get to it?
You
You like it?
I think
We're
so.
relying on your professional opinion right now.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, what stands out from the road or 15 feet away is the
Floppy.
floppiness, the way it catches
That's
the
the
light.
issue.
And we're saying, it's not that you can't use a floppy clapboard in certain situations as long, as long as it's got the single sheet thing. It's more like the trim and has to be.
This might be a stupid question too, but like, for a professional, if you basically say that, like floppy versus the actual spec, which might change, is that an intelligent way to describe that for somebody who, does that create an efficiency for a build, or for a developer?
Good question, like a rigid,
I don't,
but yeah, I don't know. I mean, because PVC trim is
Oh, a
pretty floppy until you nail it to the building. and then it's-
Okay, I
Yeah,
spec that and I'm good.
is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, sometimes the qualitative description is good and sometimes it's frustrating, so I don't know.
So do you want something like that put into C?
I think it would
Did
go in
concrete used to be,
C.
under that language,
Yeah.
with the compatibility thing you could drive a truck through, concrete would be allowed, is that correct?
Well, it's not specifically not allowed, but
Right, but
would
now it is
someone-
specifically not allowed.
Right, because that's what we wanted. We wanted specificity.
Right.
Would the PRB
Have
and
ever
the
approved
town
it, allowed
have been
it?
in favor of a 40-foot, concrete style, modern-looking building or something,
Is stucco an example of that kind of concrete?
No.
No, it's, well,
What is stucco then?
it says smooth stucco's okay.
Or does it?
It specifically puts it in the
B.
white zone.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I missed that. Gotcha.
I mean,
All right. We would just go for it with the half inch for trim.
I mean, I think that makes sense, because, right, that encompasses panels and anything greater in thickness. But regular, like vinyl clap siding is allowed currently?
I think it is as long as it's, well, the proposal here would be as long as it's a single sheet. So like it's one clapboard rather than a
yes,
stack.
it is allowed.
It would be allowed.
That's what it's saying, and it.
Yeah. So I think we
and
just have to be
It's already in
careful.
Well,
place
yeah, and I
in the
think in
district.
practice, it's
been
been used
allowed.
and approved.
Yeah.
It's been
under the
used
current
and approved
ordinance.
under the compatibility they've allowed it.
So I think the guidance would be,
Glad I don't live downtown.
What?
I'm glad I don't live downtown.
Well, I know, well,
Good thing we already got a train going through town, because we'd never get one with these rules.
Well, the other question too is like you said, the J channel. Is that allowed if,
does that count as trim?
right, because I would say trim, that's trim,
Yeah.
right? Like AZAC makes a casing has a dado in it to accept the vinyl. But
That's different than J channel though. You get so far into the weeds. Yeah. Right, because I mean, otherwise we're basically giving up on this standard. I think if we kind of just say, well, if we take out the plastic prohibition entirely.
So do we know how many times around town these problems have occurred? Are we?
I mean, I think there's probably a bunch of smaller
to-
buildings that have this sort of, and it's not just like visually on day one, it's like these things are more prone to like fall off the building in a windstorm and then be dangling for years. And
So
I have a
compared to, just real quick, so in section 8, which is the contributing standards, right, in comparison,
Yeah.
the materials language says traditional materials such as brick, granite, wood clapboard, shiplap, or shingles, or contemporary materials such as cementous or fiberboard and engineered wood are strongly encouraged. So there's already specific material language around the contributing buildings. That's,
But why is that say strongly encouraged and this says shall be used?
Isn't it either it's a weaker standard for contributing than for non-contributing?
That's what it sounds like
We
to
have
me.
absolute prohibitions in the non-contributing.
We have an
right, but then
absolute
it doesn't
prohibition.
allow plastic at all, and,
Well,
things like
well,
but yeah, it's
listening
strongly
to
encouraged.
Carrie and trying to, we really have been trying to not have it be up to the project review board.
Yeah.
for their own sake too. But I wonder if we deleted C, if that would solve a lot of problems. Because and add maybe your half-inch thing to the vinyl or whatever, to this, and then you're just basically saying, this is what is to be used. And then it's up to the planning board, the PRB, to say, if somebody comes in with something else, that doesn't mean they can't approve it, but, you know what I'm saying?
You could assume the shall is exclusive.
What?
Yeah, I would say, if you say, shall be used for all the things in B, if you come in with
must.
something not one of those things, then it would be.
I mean, I think
It's not allowed.
we could delete C and change shall to are strongly encouraged. And I think the argument
Yeah.
should be, or something like that. The argument for that working is the entire reason that we're here is that the lack of certainty led the previous document to be unusable. Well, if certainty is what you're after, pick something from this list.
Right,
And
these
if you
are-
really want to take a risk and argue your case, there's no saying that you can't do that.
Correct, so
So,
that
yeah.
solves exactly it.
Yeah.
And in a similar vein, if you go back to A, I know that a line was changed from something else, and we put a line in there, but to me, the combination of must, a line is a bad combination. It's a hard word and a soft word together, and a line just is very subjective, I think.
Oh, back to that one.
Let's finish, sorry, before we go to that one, let's finish, does that seem like a good?
Right back to that.
Does that seem like a good solution to and again, we're talking about non-contributing, so to just sort of like throw in the towel on concrete block and precast concrete and unfinished plastic panels, and then soften the above
To are strongly encouraged.
strongly encouraged.
If you take away the shall, though, then that makes it, the shall makes the C a little bit duplicative, because you've got a complete exclusive list. But if you take away the shall, then there is then a benefit to, like, there's more benefit to the C. Does that make sense? Doesn't mean you couldn't step
Yes,
away
there's
from
more
it.
benefit, but by saying you're strongly encouraged, it's saying, for sure, it'll be approved if you do that. Anything else, now you are up
Yeah,
to
you're
the
kind of-
planning review board,
Does
project
it-
review board.
Does it in fact say that? And if that's what it means, should we say that? Like, yeah, 'cause
It should
that's-
absolutely be more clear. Like, if I just read B as saying strongly encouraged, and it doesn't say the project or the reviewing authority, may approve other materials if the applicant makes a, good case for it or something to that effect.
You
Like,
could,
You
though.
would need something like that in there.
Yeah, I mean, if you had a provision, assuming it's within our authority, I'm not sure, but the provision could say, this will be automatically approved, and if you want to make a case for X or Y, you can. If you want that certainty, that's more specific, I think, to a developer. Here's your,
I mean, we could say, like, all those things in.
allowed.
All those things
Or-
in B are strongly encouraged. Other material choices presented by an applicant.
Subject to project
you know,
review board
yeah.
approval.
Yeah, based on their compatibility or something like that,
I mean, that is very much consistent with the spirit of the past several discussions we've had, is like, we understand we're not eliminating all subjectivity. We're trying to give a clearer path to approval, but we acknowledge that some subjectivity can be beneficial. And so this sort of codifies that in a way that could be helpful. Long way
know
of saying, I sort of like it.
With
like it
experience
too.
with the city of Portland, when they have, usually we do 2 workshops, and sometimes they may not consider, for instance, like, maybe there's just raw concrete, but if it's used in a way in conjunction with something else and presented well,
Could be pretty.
might be great, like.
Well,
so
that's
I
what,
think
that's why I didn't like
Yeah,
that, because
no,
I could imagine, I
Right.
mean, not all the time, but you could imagine.
Exactly.
You could imagine somebody precasting a bunch of board form concrete that looks pretty cool.
Yeah, even if
And
it
using
wasn't
it-
board form, but
Yeah.
maybe that's an accent
Yeah,
piece.
yeah.
That It's a,
Yeah. Okay, all right.
Okay, so I will delete C, change shall in B to strongly encouraged, and then some provision at the end of that.
other
to give-
things up to the
Yeah,
project
the
review
PRB
board.
can approve something else.
And I would suggest change must to should.
Changes in materials.
Oh, that solves your problem. Oh, that, okay.
Should align, and
Should
then,
align,
and
that's
then
fine.
does that sort of like the to be added provision that says the PRB has some leeway to approve something that, for which a good case is made, would also apply to A?
To
Is
me,
that kind of
that's
how we
always
go
a
around that?
should,
Yeah, but doesn't that put it back on the PRB to sort of make,
It does, but I think it gives a clearer path for both the PRB and for applicant to say, like, if you want a really good chance of approval, and you're gonna change from clapboard to, or from, and, you know, to take this picture, like brick to a white painted panel, then it should align with a change in form, and the applicant can say, all right, well, here's the brick wall, and here's the right angle where it goes to a painted panel, that aligns with a change in form, so then that's a pretty clear path to application. But if you wanna say, hey, I wanna do this cool patchwork that I think is cool, and I'm gonna go out on a limb for it, and the PRB says that actually we really don't think that's cool at all, then, you know, you're taking that risk. Or maybe in 5 years, that'll be all the rage, and the PRB will be stocked with people who think it's all the rage, and, you know,
Yeah,
that,
I mean, the ordinance worded like this would definitely give way more direction than the current one. So I think most applicants would just go down the directed path, because it's probably what they're gonna do anyway.
I just keep thinking of, you know, when, the one or two law cases I read years ago said the applicant should be able to read the ordinance and understand what he has to do to pass or fail.
Right.
So that's sort of my test.
yeah.
But it's strongly encouraged clear enough, I mean, it's encouraged, but it's, are you trying to create a pathway for essentially an automatic approval that would save the project review board? Are you trying to sort of exclude by ordinance?
I see, well, I think I see your point and what you're saying, and I like it, but what gives me a little bit of pause is even with a quote-unquote certain path to approve, like automatic path to approval, I can see so much gray area in like materials changing in 5 years, and then, well, is that actually a, you know,
Yeah.
is that actually an apple, or is it an orange that looks like an apple? And, you know, it's kind of,
I don't mind strongly encouraged.
Also,
It's worth, but- Sorry.
if we, in B, if we say like other materials may be approved by the PRB instead of reviewing authority, because there's staff approvals in here, which aren't in the current ordinance. So,
yeah, if you're gonna go out on a limb, you
yeah,
gotta go to the- yeah.
if you use these other materials for like your small little project that otherwise would have been staff approved, like only the PRB can approve that, staff can't
Okay.
approve that, which is similar to how we have some ordinances now, where there's, if you want to enter into this more subjective conversation, if you want like an automatic approval, you know, like let's say for your 300 square foot addition, pick one of the materials on the list, that's encouraged. And if you want to say, oh no, you know, there's this really cool concept that we have using concrete, then you'd have to go to the PRB and get them to weigh in.
I have are we good with, and Wayne, we fixed your
Yeah.
aligned your aligning.
we aligned your,
So
I'm now aligned with you.
I have a quick question on D.
Yeah, while we're here, we should just do D.
Yeah, 3D.
So I put some potential language in the staff report. I haven't changed the language in the ordinance yet.
Yep. And so, okay, so to go, standard, yeah, does the standard refer to just glass? Yep. Sorry, I forgot that was in the staff report. That was my question.
Yeah, so the PRB comment was, right, does it refer to just glass, or is it referring to metal too? You know, my comment on this comment was thinking that it was meant to refer to both metal and glass, but maybe the wording is not perfect. So I put some recommended language in the staff report for consideration. So instead of high gloss or reflective chrome, metallic or mirrored or reflecting glazing are not permitted, saying highly reflective, mirrored, high gloss chrome, or high gloss, comma, chrome, comma, or metallic exterior finishes and glazing are prohibited. So clarifying that it's for finishes and glazing.
The only concern I have is in like a specific case, like a railing or like a light fixture or some accent that somebody might say, hey, this is sort of part of my brand to have like a, you know, like a candy apple red frame around my I don't know, like panel or something, you know, sign kind of thing. I know sign's a bad example because that would be regulated in
because
different
that
ordinance,
would
but you
be
know what I mean? Like,
sign.
Well, yeah, so I was gonna, if you're referring to things that would only be, we could just say the standards referencing like the building material or something, not like a sign or a lamp or a
Building
decoration
materials,
or
yeah.
something.
yeah. What about a handrail? Chrome
I don't
handrail?
think-
No, we don't want that.
Well, I mean, I think that, I don't know. I
I'm
would-
imagining we have some of those in town probably, right? if
Yeah,
we were
it's
looking for
it's
them.
almost like things that are flat, right? 'Cause something that's a candy apple that's a sphere can be glossy and not highly, I mean, it is highly reflective, but it's not as noticeable as a big flat sheet of zinc siding.
Right.
Yeah. Or what about like a dimensional restriction, like anything over 6 inches wide or something like that?
With building materials, I guess you'd call a railing a building material?
I don't know.
Well, I was thinking of adding something to 3D, so, you know, use the language in the staff report and then, you know, and add on to that and say, you know, this applies to like principal and accessory structures or something, or principal and
building
accessory
materials on-
buildings.
yeah.
Yeah,
You
not,
just add, yeah,
not
Okay.
like,
Yep. Yeah, I think the dimensional thing would be a problem, you know?
Yeah, no, it's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, can it not apply to handrails or guards or something? I mean,
yeah, we could do the opposite, we could say. you know,
excluding
it-
handrails.
Yeah, it doesn't apply to signs or handrails.
Round
or
mounted
something.
accessory hardware. I don't know how you describe
Unless
it.
that's something that isn't, I know they just put a new one up on Bow Street that's black.
Yeah, can you have a chrome lock set?
Yeah.
So primary building material.
This is why this has
something
taken
like
us 2 years.
that. Yeah,
More than 2 years. Yeah. Okay.
Do you, the reflective glazing, is there a percentage of a facade? Do you guys have that anywhere?
That needs to be used for glazing.
No, like, a lot of the times towns will say a percentage of the primary or like the primary facade has to be
Certain
a certain
percentage
percentage
glazed.
or less of glazing
Yeah.
or as it applies to the reflective nature of it, not necessarily
Overall.
how
Well,
transparent.
all glazing is reflective, is part of your point,
That's
so,
right.
you know, that's another.
We have, I mean, so we do have a standard that says a certain percentage of your street-facing facade has to be,
Yeah, which we're going to
We're
get
going
to.
the opposite
because
direction
that's
and trying to up the glazing on
Yeah.
yeah.
commercial.
Ground
districts.
floor, yeah, commercial uses has like a
So,
55%.
is reflective glazing a term?
I think, I mean, what,
Is
I
it
think what this
possible
is
that could be
after.
misinterpreted to be all glazing?
Well,
Is that a thing?
well, yeah, I mean, you think about like is it the Fairchild building? It's no longer the Fairchild building, but whatever that one down on,
There's clearly sort of mirrored glass.
Yeah. but I don't know,
I
like,
think of
what
that as
counts.
mirrored glass, not as
Right.
reflective glazing.
But what counts as highly reflective glazing?
Yeah, what percent reflectivity?
Glass with a 0.7 feet, I don't know.
There's an angle.
You actually know, there
Yeah,
is a
there's
spec in here
There's
somewhere.
a spec, like, basically it's an angle of and I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but there is an angle associated with it.
Is that something we should just look up and get, like, see how other towns are dealing with that and maybe incorporate?
I mean, usually the glazing is not I don't know, it's associated with it, but depends on, I think what we're after here is not necessarily the windows, it's more,
Well, no mirrored glass. I think it's mirrored glass. I don't think it's reflective. I mean, it's mirrored. That's what they're trying to avoid, is that.
right.
So we could say something like highly reflective, high gloss, chrome or metallic exterior finishes and mirrored glazing are prohibited. Would that work?
Exterior finishes, see, that sort of solves that problem.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the language in the staff report, yeah, is,
I mean, but that solves the railing problem. That's not an exterior
yeah,
finish.
yeah.
It's not a lock set.
Yep, I would agree with that. Well, I would say a lock set is probably not an exterior finish either. But then you get, it's like, do we have to define exterior finish? I don't know, probably not.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't think it is an exterior finish.
A lock set?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a,
It's
but like,
well,
there's no.
this is the problem.
Yeah, I think we're, in reality, this is probably not gonna be an issue, but I think that, I like that latest reworking of like prohibiting mirrored glazing, and I think that,
Okay.
that was a good, yeah. All right, have we beaten that one to death?
Let me,
So 3D, 6.3D is gonna become 6.3C,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
And
Oh,
then-
and we didn't solve his picture problem.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so we have 6.3A represented here. Do you want B or I guess C? I mean, maybe C after the new C, this
Well, the new
gloss
C is a
metallic.
prohibition, and nobody wants a picture of what we don't want, apparently.
Well, no. Caroline had said previously not to use a real-life example of something in Freeport, of something we don't want. There could be other ways to show what we don't. Yeah. There could be other ways that I will bring up at the end of the conversation.
That opens up so many possibilities.
Yeah.
There's so many parts of pictures in my house that we could use.
But if there is this confusion around like what we want with glazing, is that something then that we could show there, potentially, the difference between like what would be acceptable? I don't know how well that's gonna come through in an image. But or we could just do nothing, that we don't need to
That's a
add
good idea.
another picture there too. Do nothing.
Have we had any buildings like that proposed in Freeport?
And this standard didn't exist before, so
When in doubt, leave it out.
I will take out
What's
the
the, what's the
placeholder.
hotel downtown
later.
Portland? The big panels that were, the big
All right.
building
Oh,
right across from the
the
Ocean Gateway.
Regency?
Yeah,
Oh, no, oh, that's a different one.
the one down by the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Casco
yeah.
Bay parking garage.
Yep.
Across the
Is
street.
it a Hyatt? I can't remember. Anyway, I know which one you mean. Yeah, right, but, yep. The intersection of Franklin and Commercial.
All right, so the next one, we're actually going back to the previous page on page 10, 6.2A. So PRB member commented, should the phrase design concept be included in the definition? So in 6.2A, it says all windows shall be detailed with architectural features integrated with the overall design concept, including but not limited to sills, frames, and trim detailing. So I think in the staff report, I mentioned that one way we could define design concept as a term, we could also just get rid of the word concept and, have it state the windows shall have, these architectural features integrated in the overall building design. And then you list these ways
That sounds
that we
good.
would do it. Does that satisfy everyone there?
I think otherwise you would have to define it.
And I think design concept might be used a couple other times. Yeah, actually, if you look, it's used in the next standard as well. Entrances shall relate to the overall design concept.
Design, you don't, right,
So
you
just
don't need the
cross
word
out.
concept.
Let's take out concept.
Good. Next would be 7.1A. So there's a comment, clarify what is meant by multifaceted display window.
Well, this where you sort of have a picture. Well, first of all, I'm not sure we know. And so maybe we should be clearer.
I mean, multifaceted, like, is that just a fancy way of saying?
Lights, or
Yeah,
is it-
multi-light?
Well, no, I think it kind of means like bay windows and stuff like that.
Well, so that's what I don't know. This was something put in by the consultant. It's not defined, so I'm not sure what their exact intent was. I assume it was you know, that the display window has some
Facets,
dimension.
more than
right?
one
Yeah,
facet.
multiple facets. Right, so it's like a bay window.
So what's
or
being
there's
prohibited,
lights.
always trying to figure out what we're not allowing,
So it,
is a big, long piece of glass?
Yeah, just like a flat piece
big-
of,
plate window in a
A
big.
plate window that
big-
doesn't have any mullions.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine like, it actually did, this one seems like it would be fairly easy to define, right? You could have like, either it could be, okay, yeah, now that I say it's easy to define, of course, I'm gonna struggle to
Is it,
define it.
is it more about the, I don't know, for me, it's not, it's the shelter, it's the overhanging roof. Like if you have a huge three-story building with a single door in it, with nothing overhead, it's a very unwelcoming, terrible way to design an entrance. But it's not about the door, it's about the coverage or that protection above, which defines that as an entrance more than the door itself.
Or the windows to either side of
Or
the
the
door.
windows to either side of it. Like, to me,
Well, note, just for the legal of here, says that the entrances have to have 3 of this list.
Yeah.
It could be any of those 3. It could not
or
have
more.
an overhang. It could solve it a different way. And this was an attempt again to say, these are the things we like, make sure it isn't nothing.
So-
But I don't know.
but
I
is
mean,
that-
I agree with you, the overhang, the roof overhang is the most important thing here,
right.
but
Are there any
But
buildings in
here's
Freeport
one
with
that,
the?
We could elevate that, we could say like, should have an overhanging roof and at least 2 of the other things.
well, but, I mean, here's your picture that doesn't have it. I don't know.
Multifaceted display window.
It doesn't have a roof overhang.
Yeah. Right, how deep does it have to be to count as an
I
overhang?
don't
That
think
cornice
that's,
probably doesn't count.
that's a
Yeah.
cornice, it's not an overhang.
Yeah.
So I think that's the point, is that we don't want undecorated, simple, give it some character.
but I
That's
mean,
how we
these
got here.
apply to any commercial, mixed-use, or multifamily building, right? Like, a mixed-use building could essentially just look like a single-family home, and, you know, there could be, you know, it could just look like a 2-story, single-family home with an office on the first floor, or, you know, a residence on the top floor or something. It's not, these standards don't necessarily just apply to like these really large-scale commercial or multifamily buildings.
But then they might choose to not have a multifaceted display window. Sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
might, but so, okay, so if a multifaceted display window is one of the things, then we need to add a little bit more clarity about what counts as a multi, and what are the,
Well, what it's saying is you can't have a solid door, right? If you have a solid door, you have to have side lights. Or if you have a solid door, you have to have, it has to be a half
or
light.
something else, or decorative door surrounds and a parapet, you could
yeah.
pick from the list.
Yeah, you can have a solid door as long as it's sort of part of a bigger composition, right? Am I reading that correctly?
I don't know.
Because I think, yeah, so if we go to 7,
Transom window.
What is, I think the issue is, what is multifaceted? I think
I
everything else is
take that as like
okay.
those, you know, those recessed entries? You know, like Portland has, I
Yeah.
don't know if there's any in
Yeah, yeah.
Freeport, but like,
There are
those are the
some.
display where they're parallel with the street and
Right
then
here.
they're east back.
Right there.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it should be or parapets instead of and, because it's a list of alternatives. And then transom windows and side lights, so that, I read that as, so you have both, if that's one option, not, that doesn't give you 2, right? Is that, so if you keep the and in there, that's one thing, the 2 of those together gives you 1 credit towards the 3.
I think that might be the intention. If you're gonna have side lights, it looks a lot better if you also have a
Okay,
transom.
yeah, that makes sense, then I think
Although
that's
here
right.
you have side lights without a transom, and it looks
Fair
perfectly
point.
nice, so.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, as long as that's deliberate, I think that makes sense.
That's why I take that as being, you can't have a solid door. Because everything is suggesting some type of display window, a transom window, or a side light, which is a window.
But what about this picture here of, that's not a solid door? Because
No,
you're
because
counting the
it's a-
side lights as the.
Yeah, or this is it's a door that has it's a half-light door, in the example.
Right,
Whoa.
yeah.
So is there a reason we should prohibit a solid door?
Well, I think the idea is that these are commercial, mixed-use, and multifamily buildings, and that, you know, when you go down Main Street, a lot of it goes into the next section, where your primary ground floor facade in these kinds of buildings generally are storefront oriented. They're, you can see into them. It's not just a
Yeah.
kind of solid wall that's, uninviting for the public to
But
walk
this would
by.
also apply to a new single-family home
No,
on a side
no,
street?
it doesn't. It's
No,
This is
commercial,
only commercial.
mixed use and multifamily.
Got it.
Yeah.
Single-family homes and duplexes would only abide by section 6, new ones.
So we are biting off a little bit more than what was in the staff report here by talking about other parts of this. So, I think the question is really just around what is a multifaceted display window, if we want to zoom back in on that. I think we could make a couple of clarifications about what counts as it's like,
Is there a problem with, is there a fear that the window's gonna be too big? Why not just say display windows, get rid of the word multifaceted and move along?
Well, I think,
I'm
yeah,
not sure that's the right answer, I'm just.
I assume the intent was that a display window could just be like a large, flat plane of uninterrupted glass, and that was not what,
How bad would that be?
yeah.
well, I don't, if people
I mean,
are okay
seriously,
with that, then
I'm
we can
asking
just
you
allow
guys,
it.
like, what difference does it make? I mean, as big as a building, if they wanted to make the glass that big, or just have it be glass butted to glass.
Yeah,
Like glass.
I think there are some examples downtown of just big.
Yeah, I
Big
mean,
windows
glass
that-
windows, so I think if you just got rid of multifaceted, you can
just say display
go
windows.
home.
Yeah, I think that might be certainly the cleanest option. And I think maybe by saying, if we want to make ourselves feel better, or if I should say, if I want to make myself feel better about this, by including 3 or more of these, then almost by definition, it's multifaceted, right? Like, the display window is just one part of it. And so if you've got
Right.
other stuff going on in there, then it's multifaceted,
Right.
so.
The surrounding overall entrance is
Right,
multifaceted.
there you go. And the display window is one of the facets.
Yes.
All right, great.
I have an objection to the pictures here, though. They're not commercial buildings.
Which one?
Both pictures are houses.
Yeah, I think they're showing very specific
Things,
features
which
on
are
that
very
list.
nice, but it's hard to relate when they're
Yep.
not commercial buildings.
We're gonna get to, I have some feedback at the end, if we can get,
We
can get to it.
end.
About the images.
Okay.
And some things to run by, so, but I'll note that down.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure this is right, on the right,
Oh, well,
on
then
page
maybe
13.
it's
I think that's
okay.
on
That would
Holbrook
make it-
Street, the James.
Maybe they're both commercial buildings, that'd be awesome.
But
Even
that was
so,
my- that
a
was kind of my
commercial
point.
example would be nice, though.
At least like one of them
Somehow.
being like a larger
I
scale.
mean, actually, this next one is
The
right on
next
page
one,
14.
yeah, I mean, I wondered, could you put this on this page and would that help?
Okay, so the next one is on the next page. So the next comment was about 7.1.c. So the comment was, could dark tinted glass be prohibited for display windows? It's hard to see through certain stores, which diminish the effect of retail display. So, if C2 is saying, okay, we should have, ground floor commercial uses should be 55%. Display windows on the facade, the PRB comment was, okay, well, should we prohibit tinted windows so they actually act as display windows and you can see in and see the
Are there any
display?
examples of that? What are they
don't know
worried
off the
about?
top of my
I mean, if they're display windows, why would somebody tint them?
Well, it's
If
like an
it's an
office,
office,
yeah.
why wouldn't you tint it?
Right, so this was so we do say, like, right below this, on D, windows in multifamily residential buildings, it says a minimum of 35% of the primary facade shall have transparent fenestration. We don't use that transparent fenestration language in the commercial display window section in 7.1.c.
All right, here's my case.
Or we could not.
Here's my case for adding transparent to the,
One.
to this and making it is, it's a more long-term, like if what we're trying to do is promote sort of trying to create a sense of place, we're trying to make these buildings on the ground floor welcoming. If somebody says, I'm building an office, I want tinted windows, what happens in 5 years if it's not an office anymore and somebody wants to come? That's an expensive thing to change. So if we say you got to use transparent fenestration and somebody's building an office All right, so
Put
they
some
put in a
blinds
top-down,
in.
bottom-up shade.
Yeah.
You know, that's not a big deal.
Yeah, there could be other screen, like if someone wanted to do a gym downtown and they didn't
Yeah,
want the treadmills up
put
against
up
the window
some-
staring out onto the street, they could put up
up
some.
Yeah,
blinds.
put up something that's easy to take, and that way we're encouraging long-term
Transparent
sort of
windows.
development that doesn't end up with a bunch of a big pile of windows in a dumpster, and/or development costs that are prohibitive in the future, where somebody says, yeah, I really want to bring this business to town, but that's the best place for it, and I don't want those windows, so I'm not going to Yarmouth. Not that we're competing.
Are applied films allowed or not?
That's a good question.
I would say no under this.
Yeah, that's probably
Goal.
like too much of a workaround.
But is that our problem if he wants to take the windows out and put something else in? Or isn't that
Well,
the
I think I think my point is like, if we can put our thumbs on the scale of sort of keeping like the cost of change and the cost of development low. And actually, I mean, you know, if you want to put a window film on, maybe that is fine, because it's still transparent fenestration, it's just that it's got a window
Somebody can
film on
take
it.
it
Same
off.
as
Somebody can
a-
take it off, yeah.
Right, it's just the same as blinds, I guess,
Yeah.
you're right.
My question is a tinted window have a more of a negative connotation than
Like a frosted etched.
film?
That was not a word. Etched is what I
Yeah.
meant to say.
And I don't know if that's getting way into the weeds, but
Yeah. Oh, we love the
in any
weeds.
event, the film is certainly a low cost.
Yeah.
It's not embedded in,
The renovation is low cost, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, yeah, it's an interesting one, because if you say transparent fenestration and somebody puts a film up, does that become like an enforcement issue, where theoretically, at least, you know?
I think it would leave enough gray
Enough gray
area
area.
in the ordinance that we could
We could say
act
something
on
like,
it as we
yeah,
wanted until someone cared about it enough that it became a big deal, which would probably never happen.
In the past.
It has come up.
Yeah, because it was unclear if you could cover your window, and it's quite often done from the inside of the building. So I think if it's something that you have feelings on, you should be clear.
I think
We just solved it, right?
well, we tried to.
Transparent.
I think if we say transparent, but we could say specifically, like, window treatments, including coverings, are acceptable so long as they don't change the color or tint of the glass. Like, would that allow for a privacy etch?
Yep.
How's that? So you can't do the, like, hot climate car window look, but you can do, you could etch, or you could put blinds, or you could do something like that.
this was a recent interior project, but
Yeah.
that's an applied film.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's not as,
Is that removable? Like, could you?
Yeah,
pull
you
that off?
peel it off.
yep.
Peel it off and get out some sort of solvent to
Yeah,
take
you
off
need
any
a little
residue.
cleaning.
Okay. All right, now we're cooking.
All right, so I think that was the last one of the PRB comments. If there's anything else language-wise, which I hope there isn't, but we can touch on that now. Otherwise, if people are ready, we can move on to the other couple things I wanted to bring up.
I have one question on, on page 4, along the lines of making it clear what we're actually prohibiting when you're talking about roofs. What page was that? 1 second. Page 10, I'm sorry. You described the different types of roofs, and I was wondering what's prohibited. I'm not sure if there's any other kind of roof.
So basically, what would be prohibited would be a flat roof where you don't have a break in the roof line. So one of these, longer,
Right. Well, it says flat is allowed, but then later it says it can't be longer than 50 feet.
right.
But is there another type of roof besides pitched, gabled, hipped, gambreled, or flat?
Arched. Which,
There's
we probably
bow.
have one.
There's bow roof.
Oh.
bow
So
roof
are those
trusses
prohibited then, because they're not on this little list?
Or butterfly roofs.
Oh gosh, butterfly. That counts as pitched, right?
Yeah, it's still pitched, right?
Just be multiple.
Yeah.
So that could be shortened just to make it clear what you're excluding. And the 50-foot of continuous flat would be.
You just take out the first sentence, you're saying, roof
Yeah.
design, and just skip right to roof design shall include one or more architectural elements.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think that first sentence is probably an artifact from, like, trying to clarify that flat roofs are acceptable, when in the past they have been pretty explicitly at least discouraged. So,
Right, so at this point, it's pointless. to
yeah,
Wayne's point.
open to that argument.
But it's easily understood
Yeah.
if you read it. All right.
yeah, but if I see something that says, these things are allowed, I'm wondering what's not allowed, that's like the first thing that comes to my mind. And there's really nothing else.
I mean, does that dip you back into what we were talking about before, where, like, that thing you're almost certainly gonna go through, it's gonna kind of pass through, and something else, maybe, like, case, right? So it might be allowed, but you'd have to.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cases where we say, you know, like such as, and I mean, I would kind of view it in a similar light. Yeah, I'm open for whatever the board wants to do there.
You could say traditional roof forms, including, are encouraged, or something like that. I know we're
Well,
trying to.
back to
avoid that.
Wayne's point, what's not allowed, in which case, what is the point?
Right.
Is there anything that's not allowed? What don't we want? That's the
Because
only
there's
purpose of this thing is
There's
what
two
you
or three
don't
other
want.
kinds of roofs you didn't list there, you know, there's mansard, there's jerkin head, I mean, there's a bunch of other designations for roofs there. so-
Right,
You don't want to imply, you don't want
the
to.
ugliest building in Freeport is a mansard roof.
So we don't intend to prohibit that, right?
Answer.
Mangy moose. Oh, my God.
Okay. I'm with
How
you.
about nothing
Well,
made,
that's not really true mansard roof.
Well, it's sort
kind
of a
of a
fake,
faux one,
fake
yeah.
mansard
Yeah,
roof.
it doesn't have a peak to it, though.
we could specify nothing mangy is allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah, no mangy roofs.
Okay, so strike,
Just delete the first.
is the consensus to strike that first sentence? Is that,
Anybody have any reason to keep
anybody have
it?
any sort of sentimental attachment to that first
Right.
sentence? I mean, I do, sort of, but not in the sense that makes me want to keep it, more of like,
So how much are we striking there?
Well,
just that first sentence.
The
Roofs
first,
may be pitched, gabled, hip to,
Gambrel to
just
flat.
that sentence
just
goes.
that one sentence right there.
Right.
Okay.
We could say something really general, like a variety of roof forms
Yeah.
may be acceptable in
Right, right.
Freeport.
That's okay. That seems,
You know, just so it's clear, because I do, like, if somebody comes to this looking for direction, they might say, wow, I have no idea what I'm supposed to, but like, they're not saying anything about, like, I know I have to, but are they gonna be okay with a flat roof? I don't know. So I think that's the argument for keeping some sort of guidance in there. So,
Well, they probably know what they want to do, and if it's not prohibited, they'll go ahead with it, you know?
right, but
they're
even.
trying to figure
Yeah,
out
but
what,
there might be like, they might be, also be, I mean, to put you on the spot, Adam, like, if you read this and you said, well, I know I want to do a flat roof, but it says nothing about the roof form whatsoever in this sort of design review district, are they going to come after me if I try to do a flat roof and you don't?
Well, it says
Oh, no.
flat roof can't be more than 50 feet.
Well, and that's,
That's true, yeah.
that's confusing also, because what is that? Then if you're talking about the horizontal roof line, then you're not talking about the roof, you're talking about the eave.
Right.
So is it the ridge, or if you're specifically talking about flat roofs, then you wouldn't necessarily see it. And I'm wondering if the, again, like, what are we trying to not have? Isn't, like, Bow Street Market is 100 feet long, it's not the ridge on that. Or is it, are you saying that when flat roofs are used, it's the eave line of that can't be more than 50 feet?
yeah, I think so.
That's the
It's-
intention.
The idea is to break up the mass, to not have.
Because it's, what is that? I don't know, it is unclear. Because most flat roofs have parapets, so, but parapets are allowed. They might be 2 inches tall, or they might be 2 feet tall, but they often have parapets with internal walls. But parapets that are level or flat for more than 50 feet are allowed, correct?
Are not allowed.
Parapets?
If you have a flat, well, I should say, the intention is, if you have a flat roof, we're trying to break up the appearance of building mass by saying there has to be some sort of like bump out or break in a horizontal eave, maybe eave is a better word, of more than 50 feet.
It's more clear about the eave, because, like I'm saying, if you have, a big square building, flat roof, that has internal drains, you would have a parapet all the way around that. So, yes, it has a flat roof, but you wouldn't know it because you're using parapets all the way around. Parapets are allowed, and they can be longer than 50 feet.
But the
Does this only
horizontal,
apply
oh,
to-
so you're saying that like you don't see the roof
You don't know
line.
that it's flat, like the
Yeah, it could
parapet,
be.
a building with a parapet, you could either have like a row house with a parapet, right, like on the ends, that's different than a flat roof with a parapet, but like most buildings in Portland have a primary facade with a parapet, behind that is a flat roof, but you wouldn't
Who
know
knows,
it.
right?
So it seems more like it's a designation of the eave line.
But would that apply if you had like a big, long building like Bow Street with a 8-pitch gable? Do we still want to say you can't have your 100-foot eave? Or does that break only apply to when you can't see the roof?
Yeah, that's
It's a
100
tricky-
Look at that eve right there.
Yeah, but you could make an argument that those dormers are breaking up the roof line.
I mean, you're trying to avoid 50-foot long boxes.
That's,
Right.
it's the big box, that's exactly it.
And you, if I'm reading this, you could avoid that by arguing that your roof edge is a parapet. Right?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way, but I can see your argument, yeah.
So the fix is,
Thinking of Portland require, I think it's longer than 150 feet, but they require a break in the eave line or a projection, to the facade.
so breaking
out.
the eve line would do it.
Yeah, but
mean,
maybe
if there's
50,
a
maybe
projection-
50 feet is too short if we go to break in the eve line. Is that kind of your,
50 feet isn't, it's not that,
I mean, this room is probably,
Not that short.
no.
No,
It's, not that we have to go 150, but it's,
this room is 50 feet, roughly, right? Not even.
probably not quite.
40.
no.
yeah.
But it's, I mean, the diagonal might be close to 50.
Or even, like, if you have a parapet that marches along and then there's a relief that's vertical. also.
That counts as a break in the eve line, yeah. Okay, so it sounds like changing the language to say, changing horizontal roof line to be eve line. Or eve.
If the horizontal roof line is more than 50, there must be a break in the eve line, right?
Yeah, that makes more sense, breaking the
But
eave.
you still have the roof line is more than 50 feet.
But do we leave when flat roofs are used in that qualification, or do we just make it apply to all roofs in that case and bump it up? I don't know.
Well, that's right.
That's where you have to go, yeah, that's,
Yes, I think it only is
you have to
flat
increase
roof.
the length, yeah. Could you combine it, flat roofs and parapets? 'Cause
Yeah,
it's-
I feel like I'm out of my depth here. I took a good shot at this a while ago, but now yeah.
It's just very rare to have a flat roof building without a parapet.
Right.
I can't say that I've,
Picturing like a fortress, like when my kid builds a fortress with like a.
so the Gorham Savings Building on India Street in Portland,
The former
the old
railroad building.
railroad
yeah.
Grand Trunk building, if you're coming down the hill approaching the ocean, that whole facade is a 3-sided parapet brick. And on the ocean side, if you turn around and look at the back of the building, it's a flat, basically metal eave condition where it's just the rubber rolls over the side of the building. And it's almost like, when a flat roof is used without a parapet, maybe that's when it applies.
I think that's the only time that it.
Yeah, so maybe, is that, so that's the standard then, is when a flat roof is used in the absence of a parapet? And then do we want to do anything to mitigate the appearance of building mass for other roof forms? Or do we just throw that out and say, all right, if you've got a parapet and you've got some other stuff going on, then,
It only says one or more, so you have overhang eaves, and then you can make the biggest, longest thing, you could do this roof with nothing.
right? And what's the problem with that? This is the follow-on question, yeah.
Yeah, right, what's the problem with that? Fine, those are so pretty.
So I mean, building mass is probably that's one of the things that's been probably most contentious on recent design reviews, right? So, and there's really no other standards in here that get at building mass and limiting it, so, yeah, I mean, if people do think that's worth having, then you probably need to add something else somewhere.
Yeah. This one may require like a little bit of a revisit, because I think I like the change
this
to
done.
clarify, yeah. I know, but
I know.
we're gonna have another bite at this anyway. Okay. Yeah, I feel like we are probably at the point where we're not gonna make further progress on this tonight, just because it's a little bit more technical and.
Well, yeah, is there anything else about breaking up, we break up the blank facades, but breaking up the mass, that's the question. And the mass is not broken up on the dash? Oh, yeah, it is.
It is. It's got all
It
kinds of
is.
bump outs and stuff.
Yeah, it's got bump outs.
Steps in.
I mean, actually, like,
But
even
the-
section 527, right, the performance standards for the commercial districts, we gesture at breaking up building mass a little bit. So I don't think it's unreasonable to have something in this set of standards that breaks up building mass, but it may be that this isn't the right way.
Next time I can come with like a few options for
Yeah, that'd
like
be
a G or something, and
I think my suggestion, sorry to immediately jump to the end, I'm assuming everybody's fine with being done with D here, 2D, but my suggestion for dormers is to rewrite this so it just says, dormers must, or there must be at least 30 inches of primary roof surface on either side of a dormer.
Yeah, didn't we discuss that already and say
We
were gonna
did,
do
yeah,
that?
but I didn't, that's what I alluded to at the top when I said
I
I
asked-
failed to send my
I
language
asked Sam
to,
to give me the
Oh,
language.
okay.
and I
I
didn't do
think we
it.
already agreed with you.
Yeah, okay. That was, yeah,
The workshop part just wasn't recorded, so I couldn't go
Gotcha.
back to the
Yep.
video
Yeah,
and
okay.
get the actual language.
yep. Yeah, I missed my first deadline, and then I knew you were gonna get this stuff out, and I just gave up. So, that was that one, and then the other one, I think, Kyle, is the window lights should be, like, simulated divided lights need to have physical bars that project a 1/4 inch beyond the exterior face
All
of the
right,
glass,
we discussed that one too.
so.
Is 1/4 inch, is that a standard somebody can, or is that a
It's just,
special?
it's not special, it's just easy to achieve.
Okay.
I think most of them are, like, I measured the windows that
What?
I just received on a job, and they're 5/8.
There's three,
So
yeah.
it's a 1/4 inch or more,
Yeah, 1/4 inch or more.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least a 1/4 inch.
yeah, just so they,
And most of them
Don't think they
do,
have to know
they're
something special.
3/8, or they're more.
And that's in the exterior,
Exterior. Interior, you can do whatever you want.
but people, yeah.
Generally, if you're
So
gonna get
it's
a
not
divided light, it's gonna be
snap-in
both.
mullions
Yes.
on the inside, that's what is prohibited.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're done. Are we done with all of it?
Well, text-wise, I have a couple other things
Oh, on
to
pictures.
go over. So first, the map, let me pull it up. Here you go.
Oh, yeah, on the map.
So this was the updated, so I don't want to talk about the actual classifications of contributing versus non-contributing, because one of our next steps is still going through that public review process of, making the architectural survey sheets available so people can comment on those. And, there's a few changes compared to our existing map where property designations changed, but I just wanted any feedback on the map itself. So I highlighted a couple things in the staff report that staff had comment on. I mean, one, compared to the existing map, it's zoomed out way too far. It makes it difficult to actually see the specific parcels. Along those lines, the parcel lines seem really light. Asked the consultant to widen or darker those. And then there's a couple of spots where there seems to be some like double layers of text going on, like with the Blue Star Memorial Highway, like that could probably just be deleted and have it, just be Main Street or, and then Freeport taken out right from the middle. The street font size could also probably drop down a point or two, just so it doesn't cover parcels. I mean, on our current one, it's really small. It actually makes it hard to see the street names at all, but somewhere in between could probably be a good landing spot. But overall, does anyone else have any comments aside from those on things they'd like to see with this?
No, except the boundaries are as we discussed last meeting.
Yeah, the boundaries are
Cleaned up just the
tightening
way we
and,
were,
yeah,
no
aligning.
other major changes.
Yeah.
There is one, and of course I go right to my neighborhood here, but where I know best, but on the northern part, so just to the east of East Street, there's a big deep parcel where the design review goes all the way back. And I wonder if that, I mean, I know it's following a lot line where the other ones.
This one here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry,
that's
I
what.
can't see that far, but I'm assuming you're.
Yeah, so, right, we followed the rear lot lines there and took out the undeveloped rear parcels, but, yeah, I mean.
You're talking about
can go
that?
either way.
Yeah,
It's
I just,
'cause
you know,
in
it's
the
like.
lot.
What's
It's in-
back there? What is it?
Right now, it's nothing. It's a
Is
big
there any
pile
way
of
to get
bamboo,
to it?
but there's no. So I mean, it's incredibly specific. I happen to know that there's a right of way that goes back there on an adjacent lot. So I mean, in the future, theoretically, it could be developable. A lot of it is also steep slopes and stuff. So I don't. It just feels like it's way back there. It's this type of
If they
thing.
developed it, could they apply to for a variance at that point?
Honestly, a lot of it probably wouldn't even be visible from the right of way at that point. So. it wouldn't
Oh, in
apply
which case it
anyway.
wouldn't even apply.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the logic
Right.
of just following the
Lot
existing lot lines, but it does bring up the like, well, what happens when the lot lines change?
Well, if he subdivides the property, then he could he petition at that point to have that removed from the district?
Yeah, but that's a big process to do a map amendment. So I almost wonder if there's like, is there a way, probably not. There's probably not a way to have this sort of like reference a sort of base map and say that like the design review district is the lot lines as they may change within like 500 feet. I don't know. It gets complicated almost no matter how you do it.
Yeah, that'd be pretty complicated, I think.
But, I mean, to give another just incredibly specific example that, of course, applies directly to me, but I know that the lot line of one of these lots has changed since this map has been made. So like already there's kind of a weird spot where the back, one of these lots, the one close to East Street, the first contributing lot on the south side of Route 1, east of East Street, is now 20 feet deeper. And so the last 20 feet of the lot is now outside of the design review on this map.
That's your lot.
It's not my lot. That's my neighbor's lot. But I don't know like how, it's probably fine in practice, but it's just kind of a weird like discrepancy that doesn't matter in this case, but I just wonder how these things are gonna be dealt with in the future.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the easiest way might be every like several years, like
go
X
through and
years,
clean
like
it up.
update it and.
Okay, I'm fine with that answer. I just had
That's a
to,
good answer.
kind of figure out what the, what it looks like, I guess, going forward. That's all.
Yeah, I think recognizing that it's not gonna
It's
be
just-
perfect
yeah, it's
and it'll
impossible to
create
be perfect,
little
yeah.
oddities here and there and then cleaning it up every so often.
Cool.
I have a quick question on page 20, if we're there. I'm not sure if it's a problem, but it just seemed counterintuitive that under F, that any addition to a contributing building that increases the square footage of the building footprint shall meet the relevant standards of non-contributing buildings.
Yeah, so the board had added that language previously.
Where are you, let me just read
It's
it.
the last line on page
F.
20.
So it's when
F,
we're
yeah.
talking about additions, you know, if you're adding on to a contributing building,
Yeah.
that the addition needs to meet the non-contributing building standards. So it's basically treating the addition as a new,
Non-contributing
Building.
That's what it says.
so if you're building a new building in the design review district, you would meet those sections 6 and 7. So
It's
So
sort of-
in this case, there aren't higher standards for the contributing building?
So if you're doing like an alteration to a contributing building, then you would have to meet those contributing building standards. But like what we talked about there, you know, with something similar to the FCS building where the addition is kind of just, you know, entirely off the back.
And it's more modern. and
But it
Yeah.
still has to meet E. F doesn't negate
Right,
E,
right.
right? So E is the extra thing.
Yeah, it's sort of, or like.
E says, don't screw up the original building when you do this.
It's sort of like you could build a more modern looking garage, attached garage or barn or something behind a contributing.
And the picture is right to the right, is sort of showing both E and F.
Yep.
Right, but F doesn't say it's behind the building or not in public view, it just,
No, E says it has to be positioned to preserve the integrity of the original building.
right?
Right, so it's up to the.
Could be up, it
project
could be
review
next
board
to,
then
but it would have to be, there'd have to be a reveal or
Right, so
something.
E and F both apply, yeah.
Right, E and F both apply.
Yeah, I think it's an interest, I mean, it is kind of a policy decision. I do sort of remember this, and I think I would not change my position on it. Like, I feel like it's, if we want a historic preservation ordinance, then
Right.
we should do that. But I think for this one, it's sort of allowing additional leeway to say, yeah, if you're adding to a building, then you should be meeting the design standards, but you don't necessarily need to be held to the higher standards of contributing.
Well, and it's not precluding someone from
Right, yeah, you could.
doing an addition, like off
That's
to
a
the back,
replica.
that's, more matching of the existing.
Would it help if F and E were reversed, were just flopped? Because that, I think, is what's a little confusing. It's like, any addition has to meet those standards. Additionally, they can't damage the original one. It's like a little bit like F almost seems like it negates E.
But F, can we change some of the language in F, because it says any addition to a contributing building that increases the square footage? Well, any addition will increase the square
Right.
footage. So we need to take out one or the other,
Rightio.
you know, so.
I think,
Well, it's an addition that increases the square footage of the footprint, as opposed to increasing the square footage of the floor area.
Like finishing the upper level or
like
adding a dormer.
you
or something.
added a fourth floor, a third floor, you
Yeah.
have,
So, yeah, building
That's
footprint,
what it
I guess,
means.
yeah, okay. It just seems like, I don't know.
Could it be, don't we have a defined term for this modification? It's not modification, that's not the right one. We talked about it right
Define
up top.
alteration and addition.
Be any modification to a contributing building that increases the square footage. Just seems like you use an addition and increase, and
So addition is defined as an expansion of like the building footprint,
Okay.
whereas alteration
Alteration.
that's fine.
basically is something that it could include an addition that increases floor area, but not footprint.
Would it make sense to combine E and F into one section?
Maybe.
So you don't have that that at least superficial counterintuitive?
yeah, it seems like,
Either way,
I
I can
think it
reverse
would
the
be
order,
better.
combine it.
I think if you reverse the order and combined it, it would all addition, that E is basically additionally, they should not damage that, I think that could be clear.
I think, yeah, if you change addition to alteration, Would that help? No.
You're saying
Why?
you can't, you
It's
don't want
actually
to.
addition.
Sorry. No, yeah.
This is a definition for
Yep.
addition. maybe.
Any addition to,
Addition or alteration.
well, but an alteration is
Yeah.
by yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
you got a definition for addition evidently,
Yeah.
All right, we're going there.
authority language. All right, never mind. Never mind.
Well, but then, no, I think your point is made by this. Addition is something that increases the square footage
Right.
of
So
the
that-
footprint.
that's, I think that's what I'm getting
Why are
to.
you repeating it over
Or
here?
within the definition of alteration, I say an addition that increases the gross floor area. So that's kind of why I just wanted to be overly
Crystal
clear.
clear, yeah.
That I was specifically in that 8-point whatever standard was talking about an addition of footprint, not of floor area.
Yeah.
Well, but shouldn't E then apply to alterations as well?
Well, but the rest of section 8 is essentially talking about alterations, like all the things to storefronts and porches and entrances, and it's, all of those standards are basically aimed at saying,
Like C says, new additions,
They
exterior
are- it's like-
alterations, and new accessory structures.
Right, we get so
Oh,
zoomed
yeah,
in.
yeah, it's already there.
It's already
We get
there.
so zoomed in that we
Okay,
forget
okay.
that the whole.
I
yeah.
gotcha.
Yep. All right. You have enough to go on that change?
Are we
Tom?
done?
no,
With
we're
this-
not done.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
so I want to talk about the photos.
Photos, yeah.
And then next steps. All right, so just big picture, pulling back, right? The ordinance was supposed to have a lot of graphics, right? Photo, illustrations, all sorts of things. We didn't get a ton of graphics and illustrations. There were more photos used. So I wanted to get everyone's feedback. I plugged some of the standards into AI to generate some renderings that we could use throughout if people thought it was valuable to provide more detail, to show specific standards better than some of those street view photos do. So I have a few examples up on the screen. So this one, we talked at the PRB workshop about the addition standard, right? And that the FCS addition, and maybe that's not the best one to show. This essentially shows
This is AI?
same thing,
generated?
yes. So, it looks like it could be a street in Freeport downtown, I think, to me. It shows the addition to the back of, what could be a contributing building. Kind of what we had originally talked about with, pointing out, obviously, if we were going to use something like this, I would probably take these out and make our own text boxes so we could edit it and freely and all that. But it, highlights aspects of the standard that we have, preserving the integrity and all that.
It's crazy.
This is
Pretty
great.
good. It even gives you examples of what not to do. Okay, here's an addition that doesn't preserve the integrity because the mass is too large. Here's another one. This one was the roof line, the whole 50-foot
Oh, there we
thing,
go.
breaks in the roof line.
This is the picture you want when we were talking about that?
And then the last one was around those commercial ground floor window displays, the 55% and some of those standards, the bulkhead having to be extending a certain amount, the second floor or the
Boy,
top
is
floor
this
is having.
helpful.
So,
What's the name of that store? It's like Coast and Co.
Coast.
I think you should have included a prompt to make the titles less lame, honestly. Otherwise, it's
I was just gonna say, it is like a really good.
So this was like all a very quick exercise where I just like quickly plugged it in, a couple random ones, and got it just for, purposes to have a discussion. If people thought there was value here, I could spend more time on it and replace some of the photos or add more images. So I wanted to get everyone's feedback on it because I know this can be a touchy subject for some
I
people.
think that helps if you have the little boxes to go with it, not just show the picture.
Yeah, with the boxes.
Yeah, you know, say, hey, this is why we like this, you know, not just stick a picture up, but actually have.
If there were lots of these, this would be great.
Yeah,
Can
I
AI
actually,
like take us back in time by 2 years and just have you do this from the start? Are we there yet? We're not there yet.
I wonder if we could have just fed the entire problem into AI and say, take this standard, make it more.
Well, 2 years ago, you
specific.
couldn't have, now you
Right,
can.
yeah, that's the crazy part. I remember talking to Ford about this at some point and saying, he said something about like, yeah, I started feeding this into AI and it was this was like a year ago. He said it's like just getting to the point where it has some really,
it's very
So-
good at finding textual inconsistencies too.
Finding what?
Textual inconsistencies, I could go back
Oh,
and forth on. I think this is great. I think this is very helpful.
So I was honestly surprised at how good some of these came out, considering how little effort and specificity I put into the prompts.
fake it till you make it, Kyle.
So this kind of leads into the next steps of, the language is in a pretty.
Fix your pictures, like, if you go to page 15,
Yep.
the town of Freeport should be embarrassed by the walkway shown in the top picture. But couldn't you just feed this picture into AI and
Yeah,
fix it?
Probably that, but yeah, I mean, I could spend more time cleaning up some of the images, either, right, adding more photo examples or replacing some of the street photos that aren't as high a quality as we want maybe with more of these.
That's a better looking photo than the Cole Haan building or the Under Armour
I mean,
building.
I wonder, should you replace them
Yeah.
all? And they
Yeah.
all become
That kind of, does that make
consistent and
Does that make-
theoretical?
Caroline happy in that we're not referencing anything in the town that might have some sort of approval passed or?
I just think we don't want to use it to show something negative. We've had
Right.
backlash even when we've showed something positive, but I do like showing real-world examples because I think it is relatable. You know, if we're showing all examples that aren't Freeport, I don't know that's the right fit either, because we do have some things that we like here and want to retain.
But I think, I mean, maybe we could also, we could,
Asphalt.
we could use some, like a mix of real world, and you could probably, as easily as as Kyle made with help from whatever, Claude or Gemini or whomever, whatever, I should say, not who. You could probably take this and turn it into like a sketch type rendering that sort of that shows the intention, but also makes it clear that it's not something that exists here or anywhere else. So that it kind of differentiates between the conceptual, like AI generated, and the real world, this exists in Freeport and we want more of it.
I'd be a little bit careful about feeding a pre-existing image in for editing. If you're taking a picture of somebody else's home, I don't know, it's probably a moot point at this point, but I'd probably do one or the other.
Yeah, I think that's what I mean.
Is that what you mean?
I think
Sorry.
so, yeah.
So I
think,
could
like,
do a
yeah.
mixture of both.
I'm saying like, yeah, like making the AI generated images, making it clear that they're AI generated by sort of like putting an AI sketch filter on it or something, so that it's clearly not trying to be a photo, whereas if we're using photorealistic, like actual photos of things that are actually here in town, then it's
Then people
clear.
are gonna start asking you, where is this? Where is this?
Yeah.
Can we put in a picture of your house, because it's an example of so many things over the years?
You could, yeah, if you want to come take a paparazzi shot of my house. You can, and then AI can edit out all the bad stuff.
So there's that part. So with the language, I think with some of the tweaks here, there might be a couple standards that we still want to work on, the roof thing, all that. But I think for the most part, we're ready for like a legal review of the language, which we should do, I think, before we have the public viewing. So I want to get the board's feedback on, we don't have anything else lined up for August. Would people be okay taking a month off for staff kind of to do the last bit of legwork in getting the ordinance finalized and then coming
We
back.
do
in
the legal
September.
review before September.
Yeah, and then in September, we'd come back with the legal review, updated photos. We
Public hearing.
could,
Or do
we wouldn't do the
have to look
public
at it
hearing.
one more time?
We would notice the public for the September meeting, I think. And that's when we would kind of announce that, okay, now we're starting the public process. Everyone come look at the architectural survey sheets if you want for the designation of your property. Give a month or whatever for that process to play out, and then come back in, I don't know, October, whenever, with the public hearing.
So we could wrap this up by the end of the year.
By fall, hopefully, yeah.
Good.
With that. But I would like to, if I'm going to go through and do like a real exercise of like replacing a lot of those photos and adding a lot of that in and formatting the ordinance in a way that, you know, makes it look the best it can, doing the legal review, implementing any comments there, I think it'll be worth having a little extra time to do all that. We don't have anything else immediate that we're working on for August.
Cool.
Unless an applicant-driven request comes in, then I think, you know, we would be
To me,
obligated to.
Just to do
Yeah.
that, but you wouldn't have to prepare this.
So if everyone's good with that, all right.
Month off. We've actually gotten a lot done. We finally got this, you know.
I'll also be, I'm out for a week at the end of July, so if we were to meet, I would have less time for the August meeting prep as well.
I had a question I meant to bring up when we were doing the information exchange, which is, can we get an update maybe from Brett on the TIF, the Todd TIF and that whole process?
I can talk to him about,
I mean, just, maybe that's, doesn't really affect the planning board at this point, but it's the, it's a key thing.
Aren't
that
we,
do.
we were waiting for some other study too, weren't we?
Oh, right, there's also the study.
Is it the VCI?
VCI?
Yeah.
yeah.
What's the
And
latest on
that's
that?
supposed to be done in August.
I think we
All
might
of a
have
sudden the
done
fall
some
gets busy.
preliminary stuff, so yeah, I think it's on its way. Yeah, I can
And that's
have,
what the town council was saying, we should wait till we get that study and then,
yeah, then we would have.
so there's a lot to do in the fall.
Yeah, I check in with Brett periodically about him potentially coming and doing like a 5-minute update at Info Exchange.
It's sort of
so-
from the work plan that we laid out in January, and so you had these
Yeah.
quarterly goals, and I don't know if you're on or off.
Yeah, we can have him potentially come in September and do a quick update on a few different
Okay.
things. Yep.
Now that September meeting sounds crowded.
I just mentioned one more little thing that bugged me that I forgot to get to. On page 4, under 3, town planner review required.
Yep.
A and B seem similar to the other things I mentioned. It seems like they're a little inconsistent in that town planner review is required in any case, even if there's no increase. So what's the purpose of B, saying that town planner review is required with that increase? It should be any alteration or addition to a non-contributing building requires town planner review. You see what I mean?
This is one of those, I feel like there may be some,
I went through this like a lot of times, so I'm pretty sure I put the language in there for a specific reason. So I'd want to read it over carefully.
Sure.
But I can double check if those could be consolidated
Okay.
or trimmed down.
okay.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it.
Okay.
All right, assuming, given that there's no one here and there's no one on Zoom, no one wishes to address us
On other issues.
non-agenda items. So do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? All right, meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone. I know these design review district, or design review update meetings tend to drag on, but